Hi, welcome back to Unique Minds of the Okanagan. I'm Robb and we're on location in Kelowna with Dacoda Nevens, the mastermind behind the melodies of Dying Breed. How you doing, brother?
Great. How are you, Rob?
Good. Thanks for coming and diving into your story.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Let's start off with who you are, where you're from, and how you got into being a musician.
That's a long story. Started when I was 12, I believe. One Christmas morning, Mom got me a guitar. Nothing else kind of worked. Kind of had a little bit of anger problems when I was little. Tried sports, tried everything else. Music was the only thing that kind of brought it down, right? So yeah, she got me a guitar, and that's just been my life for the last 20 years, man. It's just been music anywhere I can find it. One of my best friends from high school kind of was picking his brain about starting a band, and he was always this guy that kind of freestyled at parties and stuff like that, and we're like, okay, like, he knows what he's doing. Fast forward a couple of years, and I convinced him to come over to Dying Breed, and the rest was history.
Getting to where you are today with the recent release of Grindstone, how was the beginning process of getting into the recording finally and the release?
I don't know why, but we thought we were going to write this album within like 6 months, like no problem. And first it started with, where do we record? Well, then we built a drum studio in Stefan's basement. So we started there. Then we hired a producer, I won't mention any names, and he actually ended up breaking the external hard drive that our project was on. So we lost everything. So at that point we were kind of humming and hawing on like, is this a sign that it's not supposed to be out to the world or what? So we sat for about another 6 months, and thankfully Jamie, our bassist, he has a very, very good ear. He's getting a lot better at mixing too. And we were just like, hey man, like, we're gonna let you cook this thing and see what happens. And he definitely cooked on it. So turned out to be good, but the venture along the way, it was nothing but ups and downs. As
a musician too, it's hard to give somebody else your baby. I find that like being self-produced is a very valuable skill to have nowadays, especially as a band, because then you're saving so much money. You're just putting in a lot more time, because it's not just show up to the studio, pay for the engineer to do it, they do their work, but now you're having to do all the engineering.
Well, and that was the nice thing about Jamie mixing it, was Jamie's been part of the band for 4 years now, so he's very familiar with our sound, what we want out of it, right? So when you send it away to a producer, yes, they're probably great at their job, but they don't know what your ear is, right? They don't know what you're trying to steer towards, and a lot of the time you get it back and it's like, okay, here's a list, fix it all, right? So it's, when you have someone in the band or know it yourself, it's just, the flow of it's just so much easier.
It is a very challenging experience going from the writing and being a band and playing some shows into then stepping into the studio. It's kind of like tour, tour and studio are the two things that separate and divide bands from who's going to make it and who's not, because that's where most like the disagreements of a band and like the breakups of a band happen, is in studio or on the road. You really solidify your group once you get that album out and you see who's solid to their parts.
I think any band has gotten to that crossroad. I think we were about a year in. We had different opinions about stuff, and it was probably close to a year that we split up. And we were just like, no, this isn't it anymore. It's not going to work. And then it wasn't until after COVID that we were like, what are we doing? Like, we were getting along, like we were writing great music. So we sat down and wrote that album. And yeah, like you said, it just kind of solidified. Like, we've still had arguments and stuff, but all the guys have pretty much said, like, if you think I'm leaving the band after that gruesome year and a half of writing an album, it's not going to happen.
Exactly. And that's kind of the thing too, right? Like, that's really what like determines it. And I think that COVID was hard on all bands because we weren't able to do anything. And you need to be like, as a band, you need to be together creating as a group. It's still that unit. And there's like a weird, we always talk about it on the show, is like there's this weird telepathic connection between band members where you don't have to speak, especially when jamming and creating new things. And all of a sudden you just come up with this, and this like energy takes over the whole band. Yeah. And it just builds this song, and all of a sudden you're like, what do we do? And that right there is what we're always going to try to achieve. And then when you try to like step in the studio and capture that feeling, is extremely difficult.
Oh, it's so hard.
Sound itself is a very unique concept because they can change emotions, as we're like, I feel on more of a level it can be an emotional factor than other art forms. So music is very valuable in the way that our cultures are developed and people are developed, because usually you fall in love with the style of music as a teenager and that kind of develops you as a person.
Totally,
right?
yeah.
So being the person who's creating that is very difficult, especially when nowadays everything's been done. Do you ever find that a song that's like extremely emotional for you, people just don't connect to it, and they find a song that's like not as emotional to you as the one that's emotional to them, and you're just like, I'm frustrated because I want you to love this one?
Not so much with rock music. I think I'd find that more in metal, just because you guys have so many parts. Like it's never just like verse, chorus, bridge, outro, right? Like metal is just everywhere, right? So I wouldn't say so. I think it comes pretty naturally, I guess. Especially if Jamie's playing the bass line. Like, Jamie's really good at having the foundation of the song, but still filling in lines to make it funky and exciting. And I feed off of that a lot. So when I hear those, it's like, okay, like, let's rip this.
Yeah, that's like Norm. Like a good bass player can hold it down.
Yeah.
And you don't need a second guitar player almost. That's kind of that telepathy, right? Like Jamie just makes a face as the fan, and it's just like, okay, we're going. And that's what I love about like rhythm sections.
Yeah.
Like bass players and drummers, they have this weird connection, and that's like, I always see that with Andy and Norm. They just sync up in such a weird way. Like these weird little things that like most people wouldn't even pay attention to, but like naturally we fill in those moments, and like Norm can step in and he just like some slapping in the moment where Andy's like scrambling to get a drumstick, vice versa, me dropping a guitar pick and I'm holding a note and Josh is like, hey, and he's filling in. So you don't have to like speak or even like look at each other,
it's
which
good
is
to
a
have
weird
that
thing.
chemistry, right?
And that's what comes from like years of working together. And I think that's where a lot of young bands, like, we're so eager when we first start a band to get out and start performing the songs that we play. And I think that, like, realistically, it takes, like, 3 years for a band to get to where they're comfortable and create their sound. It's great to go out and perform because then you get to, like, how people see the songs.
I think as a society, we've been, brought up on that quick dopamine hit.
Yeah.
Whether it's TikTok videos or music or whatever, again, we don't have that attention span to sit down for, whether it's 40 minutes or an hour, as cool as it was back in the day to, throw an Aussie album on and be like, man, like, this is just lay in bed and look at the roof, right? Like, you don't hear about that anymore.
No. It's definitely hard. And I think that now it's steered away from albums to singles. It's become like 30-second hits of parts of songs.
Yeah.
That you've got to make like 40 different pieces of content for everything.
It's sad to see that, like, you go on TikTok and it's just, you find an artist and it's a catchy song or a catchy hook, but that's all they have. Like, it's just like a 10-20 second hook of that song just over and over and over for 3-4 months straight, and then it's like, oh yeah, that's released, here's the next hook. It's exhausting to me. I'd rather have 150 real followers that love my music than 1,000 followers that are kind of like, oh yeah, I followed them just because,
They're funny.
had a TikTok or made a funny TikTok or whatever, right? It's like, I don't want that.
I hate that people judge an artist's talent and how good their music is based off of monthly listeners. Because at the end of the day, are you truly an artist? So like for me, I listen to the songs, and even if they're bad recordings, I still listen to what there is, and I go watch the live video. And if they can hold it down, that's what matters to me. I think as musicians, we need to change our idea of what success and big is. And I think it's like, if we can build it to a point where we're living off of it comfortably, like, you don't have to be a millionaire, but like, if your bills are paid and you're doing it, like, that's success.
I'd agree with that. If I can play music and have my bills paid, I don't got a Ferrari in my backyard, but I'm doing what I want to do.
Music can always work out. There's so many avenues for music, whether it's being a performing musician, a writing musician, a studio musician, a composer for film, composer for video games, which is one thing I highly recommend small artists doing, is applying for like independent video games
Really?
to put their music into that.
Well, and I think the big mistake we made, like you look at companies like DistroKid and CD Baby and all of that, like it's really, really cool that anybody can now distribute their own music. But at the same time, it's a double-edged sword because not everyone should be distributing their own music. Like,
It's got 400,000 monthly listeners.
yeah, and it's like, I'm starving here eating crackers with 200, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, what the?
Yeah, no, it's true. And that's kind of like, I find the most difficult thing as an artist. And like, that's where like for years I stepped away. Like I took like almost 10 years off of doing music, especially hip hop, because I saw it was getting really cutthroat and to the point where it was like, I was entering battle rap. My music, I love to inspire. And like, I'm heavily based on teaching people like, hey, you can have bad times and like, you can have depression and you can work through it and be successful. And to go into something that was, because it was popular, I wasn't being true to myself, but entering battle rap where it's like, I'm insulting people. And like, I'm spending a month writing, like focusing all my energy into being negative. It was just like, it turned me off of writing all music for years.
Oh, man.
So
yeah,
I
didn't
wrote
even
music,
think about
but never
that.
released it. And it's like, coming back to hip hop now, like I know what my message is, and I'm like, I'm not changing it. Like my message is like helping and motivating.
Yeah.
And same
That's
thing
dope.
with Stormy Empire. It's always what it is. Like if
Yeah.
the lyrics they're just a lot more metaphorical and like armies helping, like taking the big army out because they're taking over humanity or like things like that. And it's just like, to me, that's just like being able to tell a story as we're like being able to teach lessons is more valuable to me.
Yeah.
They've like, there's a huge push right now against AI art, right?
Oh, yeah.
And for me, it's like we've had to deal with digital like a takeover of digital aspects since like the 80s
Yeah.
in the music industry, and we've only had to like accept it, adapt it, and move and like morph it into our thing. And then all of a sudden it was like social media, and we're like, okay, we just figured out how to record our own stuff, and now we've got to figure out how to make our own music videos because that's the only way to go there. And then if it's overproduced, no one wants to watch it. So it's got to be like, it's a really fine line of being like really bad produced and really good produced and genuine. It's a weird world to
You gotta
navigate.
check off so many boxes, man, for anything to go viral or, get listens.
But I think like staying true to like what you guys did, is you wrote an album that you love. You created magic. And I think now it's like just utilizing the concept that everybody else is, right? Where it's not like, let's write the next album. Let's push this album for it. There's 8 billion people on the planet.
It's usually, for a long time, it was just me. And then Jamie started helping me out a little bit with it as well. And every single day, I'm getting, seeing their, we got another song, we got this, we got that. Tag, like sending me messengers, like, here, come to our, it's like, dude, chill. Like,
Yeah.
so we try and balance that book of like, even when we have a release coming out, we don't want to overwhelm people with it, because if we overwhelm them, they're just going to say, screw you, I'm not going to listen to it, right?
Yeah.
So you have to find that balance of like, hey, we're here, we have an album, please listen to it, and then we back away for a couple days, and then it's, here's a little reminder, we're here, kind of thing. So we don't pay too much attention to social media, because again, we've realized that our art is so subjective that if you like it, good. If you don't, good.
So that's where you have to like constantly flood it, because people, a week or two before, because people aren't going to see the show for the poster or
Right.
things. So it's very difficult unless you're paying for
a
sponsored ad.
Yeah.
Like, get out. And they're sitting on there like, that meme where they're like, the vegan guy's like hasn't told somebody they were vegan in like 10 minutes, and he's like,
Just busting a vein through his hand.
Yeah, that was me for months with the 2 album releases, because it's like, we chose not to market. We chose not to do it. I just behind the scenes did like 250 emails of PR.
Yeah.
And then like to booking agents. Like we didn't even focus on that until like a week or 2 before the album came out. It did really well. Like, I'm happy with it. We had almost 1,000 streams in like the first week, and I was like, okay,
Oh, that's decent.
that's okay.
Yeah, I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, like that's great. Like, I'm super stoked on that. I was genuinely thinking it was gonna be like 50, and I was like, please be good the whole time. But it's like I think our fans kind of just waited long enough that they were like, we want to hear this. So we had a good response, and luckily, like, taking 3 years, every song is a banger. So like we have 2 like not instrumentals, but like Like there's the intro to the song, and then there's the intro to the title track, and they're both like 30 seconds long. But then it's 5 solid tracks.
Nice.
And we ditched 4 songs over the years too. That the boys were like, "We bring that back," and I'm like, "No,
No.
like it's just not. It's not good enough." What's been the biggest challenge for you as a musician up to this point?
I would say the biggest challenge is, I guess, adapting, to put it in an easy way. For instance, when we went through the breakup there, when it happened, I had like such this ego of like, I need Dying Breed to be steered in the exact direction I want, and it's my way or the highway kind of thing. This is my baby. Like, we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to hire this guy, blah, blah, blah. And nobody else's opinion mattered because it was my baby, right? And it wasn't until mid-breakup where I was like, maybe it was maybe it was me that had that chip on his shoulder, right? And then kind of sat on that for months, and I was like, yeah, I think it was my ego that got in the way of everything. So that's when I sat Jamie down, and I was like, man, like, I'm kind of realizing I messed up a bit, and I let my emotions get the best of me. And I learned from that, right? Like, you learn to adapt, and you sit down and you overcome those, like, oh yeah, I was kind of there, you know what I mean? And you just grow stronger from that on the other side, right? Like, it took a lot of courage for me to go back to the guys and be like, it's my fault. Like, as much as I didn't want to do it and be like, oh, screw you guys, it's your fault, blah, blah, blah. It really took a lot out of me to be like, go say sorry, lick your wounds,
Yep.
start over kind of thing, right?
And I think that's a guitar player thing, because usually guitar players are the ones who end up managing the band, writing the initial ideas. Like, it is our baby, and it does become hard to, like, this is where I always say it's like a marriage, but with 4 dudes,
Yep.
5 dudes.
Yep.
And like, your kid is the band and the music, and it's really hard to, like, everyone has their own opinion on where your band should go, but not everybody's opinion really is going to get you where you want to get. Trying to understand, like, who steps into what role.
Yeah.
Like, naturally the boys understand, like, it's not my band, but I've managed the band the whole time, and I've proven that what I can do is successful, so they just trust me at this point.
Yeah.
But I don't just, like, do what I want. I still am always like, it has to be unanimous. If none of us, if one person doesn't agree, then I'm not doing it. But it's kind of like, unless it's something I know is absolutely going to be beneficial for us, like, someone can't perform this show, and I'm like, we're going to Europe. Like, you're canceling your work day. We're going to Europe. You're going to love me at the end. You're going to hate me right now.
Yeah.
That's the dad in me, right?
Yeah.
My baby. But the band, like, Storm Empire is very good at working together and knowing who's good at what. I'm good at the business, and I'm very good with the ideas and making the ideas happen. And the boys presenting ideas and me taking that and running with it. Norm's really good with people. He's the face of the band. Even though I'm the vocalist, Norm is the face. That's how I always look at it, because he's the happy-go-lucky one that can talk to everyone. Josh is extremely shy, but he's so talented with music that I'm like, hey, you and Andy focus on music. Me and Norm will focus on social media. Like, I won't put my face online, but I'll do all the typing and do all, like, the work that's behind it. But our team is developed into a point where we know where we all fit, and it kind of works. And I think that's, like, you guys understanding, like, how you work as a band. You found that chemistry, and you can hear it in the album. Like, you guys can hear that it's a cohesive band. As where before it was 4 guys trying to write music together. It's now we write music together, and this is a unit.
I truly think that we've, in the past year or so, developed our sound. Like, when you hear a Dying Breed sound, you have that, like, oh, that's a Dying Breed song, without forcing it. Yeah. It's something that has to come natural, right? You can't force it.
Yeah.
And we've done things too, like, I'm sure you've had it with Storm the Empire, where, you know, you're sitting in a circle, you're writing music or something, or writing a riff, and someone's not getting it, or we're not hitting everything properly, and you're just like, you're to your point, right? And you're just like, I'm gonna lose it right now if you do it again. Like, so we created this thing called Red Gag. Yeah. So if anyone gets to that point in the studio, at band practice, at a show, anywhere, that's your safe word. You just say Red Gag, and you walk the out. you have a smoke, you have a coffee, you do whatever the you need,
awesome.
and you come back when you're ready. And it works every time.
That's awesome.
I'm glad we figured it out.
I know that there's been points, like me and Norm have never bickered in the band. Josh and I have only, like, well, it's not even bickerments, but it's like idea differences. Super close, like creative people. So it's kind of like it was more like understanding how Josh's brain works from not being able to work with him for years.
Right.
Because he's newer to the band. But Andy and I have like this weird like sync where like it's great. If he's not happy about it, I'm gonna know about it, and if that makes me work harder to be better. This is our project. We need to get this done. So when it came to like the recording process this time, Andy's usually been like, we always trust Andy and we don't really have input. And like a month or 3 down the road, I'm like listening, I'm like, oh, I should have like taken that mess up out or that pre-breath out that I never noticed before. So this album I sat for like 2 weeks dissecting these songs in all the little increments I could for them, and it turned out so perfect. And because he constantly had to change these things, it was like finally we're working as a team instead of just like make the song sound good, Andy. Before, that's kind of how we did. It was like, I do the bookings, Norm does the promo, Andy, you make the songs good. That's where like we actually all were together for the recording process this time. And like, if my guitar riff wasn't good enough, they made me redo it.
Well, and it's so cool to have bandmates like that push your best out of you. There was multiple times on that album where I laid down a solo and Jamie was like, yeah, that'll work. But you could do better.
That's exactly what Andy
all right,
says.
Let's do it again.
I was like, that was okay, but you could definitely do better. Like, oh. And that's when you start to hit that, because you know they're just trying to help you, but like creative criticism from your friends is the hardest. I don't care if anybody online says anything negative about me, but if like the person I look up to as a drummer is sitting there telling me I suck, I'm like, Andy, don't hate me. And it's like, I respect each person in my band in such different ways too, because we all bring different values. Like, I respect them all the same. But, like, Andy's got 20 years experience on me. So when Andy says something, I take it really seriously, and I break it down and listen to it and figure out how I can take that advice. You just got to kind of, like, understand how each member works and how they speak, and how also take into account how their day's been. That's also another hard thing, is that
sometimes when you text, your emotion doesn't come through on that text, and you read it, and you're like, Andy's pissed right now. No, he's having a coffee in the morning, you know what I mean? He's chill as not bad, but you're like...
That's literally... Then that's kind of what, like, for me, like, I think that's where a lot of the misconceptions in the band and the arguments happen, is because if something negative happens and I've got to, like, adjust it quickly, like, for example, like, oh, we got to cancel a tour, that's a lot of work for me. I'm stressed out, and to like just get all the information out to the boys so they understand. At the end, I'm like, I'm sorry if I came off being rude, but I'm just like, I'm flustered, and I'm trying to like focus my own emotions with like the amount of 6 months of work that's canceled now, and it's a lot that goes behind the scenes, especially as the manager, because like you just want to see it succeed, and when it's not moving forward, it's so frustrating. Especially when it's like, because you gotta constantly be grinding, like. Like in hip hop, there's 2 artists that I'd say are probably like the hardest grinders out of BC, and they're both like BC artists. But the one that I'm like amazes me for his work ethic and his grind is his name's Junk.
Junk, okay.
Yes, and he's absolutely insane for how hard he works, and you'll never meet a harder working artist out there.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, so he, like, I don't know what it is, what he has to speak, how much he's putting out, how much he's recording, how much he's... The dude's insane. I don't know how he has time to sleep. But that's the amount of work you need to put in.
Oh, 100%.
To make it nowadays. And it's like, that is a huge sacrifice. And, like, to find bands that are members of a band that are willing to sacrifice everything to go on the road to make that career happen is like, that's where it's really hard to find.
Well, you have to, like, for a band, I feel like a lot of people just think, like, you know, it's just for your best buddies in a garage making music, and it's so much more than that. Like, everybody's ideologies have to be on board, everybody's schedules have to be on board, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many things that come into play to make a band work, and you got to do that the entire year. for multiple years
Every
for
year.
it to work, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't just do it for a couple months and then be like, oh yeah, that was fun, guys. Like see you in a year from now. That's never gonna work. It's this constant grind of just waking up and just being like, no, this is what I chose. This is what I want to do. Like, can either go be a janitor or make music today.
I think that's where we need to steer more as artists, is less online and more just like in the communities.
Well, it's
And
outside of that, right?
Yeah, it's
Like-
really hard to promote yourself. And that's what I think the music, that's where like the metal rock industry is very different than the hip hop industry is. Hip hop is like, we're always trying to like network with the other promoters to put shows on so you can work with each other. Bands don't do that as much anymore. Like you have your group of friends that you book your shows with,
Yeah.
but then you're only getting that group of fan base, and it's not going to grow. So like, if you're not networking with other promoters and other bands, stealing their fan base, you're not going to make it anywhere.
Well, and I mean, you look at like we have our following, right? And we try our best to keep them updated. But our following is already following.
Yeah,
We're not getting our music
out there.
outside of the following. We need to bring more people in. Nobody in Alberta knows about you, so
And that's what's difficult, right? Like you can pay for all the likes and stuff, but it's like when you show up to a town, who's coming out, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of where it's like we need to start realizing that going back out on the road is the only way you're ever going to spread that word. That's why you see bands like Farm. You know what I mean? Farm is killing it, always killing it, and it's because those three boys,
Always
work
doing shows.
so hard, and they're always doing shows. And that's like, it's so hard to tour. I think like the one thing we really need to have is like someone you always need that one friend who's not in the band that sees the worth and value that you have.
Yes.
And if you have one of those, make them your manager, so that
Well,
you're not having to focus on the bookings.
we have a guy by the name of Dixon. He's a videographer, and he from day one, like he shot music. He shot our documentary for us, our 32-minute documentary. We literally had to force money at him. He's like, I believe in you guys. I want the world to see what you guys are about. I'm not charging you a damn dime. He's been like that since day one. He's like, you want a music video? You want anything like that? And it's like, we want to pay you. Like, please take them up. But he has that vision of like, no, I think you guys are going somewhere. You guys have potential. And if I can be a part of that, fucking cool. Get that in multiple positions, that's your team, right?
There's levels. You know, there's like the jam band, then there's the we're stepping into performing, and then there's the we've performed for 5 years. What's next? And usually that's where people, especially local bands, get stuck. They're just trying to get picked up and big, and you need to build our online presence more. And it's no, you just need to find someone who is a good salesman and believes in you, whether that be a wife or a girlfriend or a best friend. Build your team around people who see your value, because if you put the hard work in and you have the team that's dedicated and sees what you could do, and they all put their little bits in.
I think we're going to be doing a music video. Oddly enough, we assumed that we would have had at least one popular song off of the album, and we're almost dead even across the board for every song, right?
Good thing.
We don't really know what one to use. It's a great feeling to have that it's a balanced listen, and you hate to see like you release an album and then the first 2-3 songs just get a whole bunch of plays, and then all of a sudden it's just... So I was really glad that it was baseline across the board. It's been out for 2 months now. We're planning on doing a music video.
I think I've always gravitated towards music versus like I enjoy other art forms, but music has always been like the one that like nothing hits me harder than an instrumental song.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Like lyrics they're great, they can express something, but if you can write an instrumental song that just like it's a 15-minute long instrumental song that takes you on this journey.
Crazy journey, yeah.
And I'm just like, it's the symphonies of today. So like bands like Leech and like Mogwai from Ireland, like they amaze me for what they can do being instrumental bands. Because like you don't need to have lyrics to make a song good. And I think that's why I kind of wish people appreciated prog and like instrumental bands more. Is like they need more love, and it's because I just think that's like our taste for music is it always is constantly moving, and we went from like symphonies and classical songs to like Baby Got Back.
Yeah.
And we're kind of like slowly back on that rise to like nowadays we're not just picking like the music industry isn't just picking the cream of the crop anymore. They're not like, oh, these 16-year-old kids are going to write great songs. Like there's no life experience there. There's no musical experience there. Like You can't take somebody who's played a guitar for 5 years and make them a rock star. It doesn't work like that. So I've noticed in the past 5 years a lot more bands who are 40s and 50s getting picked up and becoming huge, and then continuing to build their career at a late age, which is extremely inspiring for me. Yeah. And like that's how I feel like releasing the album with you guys and seeing you guys on Kelowna After Dark, and it's like the steps are finally, and it makes me stoked because I've seen you guys develop since the beginning, and it's like it's so cool to see because now it's like finally the pieces are there.
It's starting to pay off.
And you guys understand where you are and who you are as a unit, that it's like now is your time to shine. Yeah. And it's like, do you know Rob McLaren? Okay. He's always said like bands have a shelf life of either 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years. And if the 2 year mark is usually where bands figure out if they want to do it. 5 year mark is usually where like, hey, we've been doing this for a while. How can we make it an actual thing? Yeah. If you hit that 10-year mark, is usually when your band becomes successful. And that's where people know your name and want to go to your shows. So like, it's a 10-year grind. There's only a handful of careers that take 10 years to get to where you want to be, and being a doctor is one of them. Yeah. So it is like being a musician, we're not taught that. Like we think naturally like, oh, we're just going to write cool songs. It's a 10-year grind. As a friend and as a rock band, I feel like you guys would have a lot better chance than a lot of the other artists to do so, is to like the local films that are going on, because the Kelowna has taken over a huge majority of the film industry in Canada, and there's a lot of independent films coming and a lot of video games, commercials, like those are kind of things where like they can't afford to pay the royalty rights for major songs, so they're always looking for something, and that is a great way to get your music out.
Well, you guys are good at that too, getting reviews and stuff like that.
Well, like it's just because, like, I mean, like, for me, I'm a really weird person, and I think it just stems from my upbringing, but, like, the worst thing you can ever hear is no. Yeah. So, like, if I send out 200 emails and they're like, no, doesn't bother me. It doesn't get me, like, upset at it. It's like, okay, but if I get 10 that say yes, or, like, the one review we did just get, which is a 9 out of 10 from a big magazine out of... I want to say France, but they gave us a 9 out of 10 for the full album, and I was just like, that if I don't get the 200 emails back, that one right there was worth it.
What's your job title? Like, what do you say?
I work in the film and music industry.
See, I'm usually, I'm a barber, or I was a boat mechanic, or it was never I'm a musician or I'm a guitarist, or you have that. You're not allowed to do that as a music career kind of thing. You're not allowed to tell people that as a music career. And it wasn't until recently where I was like, no, like...
I'm a musician.
I'm a musician. This is what I do for a living. This is what I want to do for a living. This is a real career. I'm not making $100,000 a year doing it.
I think that, like, the hardest thing we face as musicians is self-doubt. Especially when it's, like, based on numbers. And it's like, you just got to forget the statistics and focus on the connections. Yeah. And I feel like that's like, if anything that any band could do is just focus on connections. It's like, we initially are going to see something different. And I think that's where a lot of like really good videos come from, is people who aren't a part of the band.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Because they're like, okay, this song makes me feel this. And that's where a good director can take a song and make like the coolest video. That's where like outsourcing is a great thing, and having a videographer, people who
and you learn as you go, right?
Like, you have to make mistakes. Yeah. No, and that's definitely like, we're so focused on music, and like it's hard to be. Painters can paint and they can find a gallery and put music out and find people who enjoy, or put art out, and they can sell art if they're good at what they do. Bands have to be like a full business, and that's the difference. Especially like there's jam bands, like we were saying, but like if you want to make it a career, you have to focus on the parts that no one wants to focus on, or you're going to have to outsource. And that's like, I think outsourcing isn't a bad thing, but it's like what I was saying earlier, you got to have that person who believes in you, and not just like some
just agent. A hired gun that just doesn't give it.
Yeah. If like what are your guys' goals for the next year and a half? Like, what do you plan to do?
Well, right now, I think for this summer, we're slowing down. Like I've been doing a lot of other gigs and stuff with some country bands, so we kind of assumed that this summer was probably going to be pretty slow. Rory's said, you know, once he has a few months under his belt and calms down a little bit, gets a little more sleep, he'll be back to it. But
hopefully it works.
well, we feel bad for him because he's rocking 12-hour days doing construction and then coming home and having to do that. Right? So it's like, we can't drag you out to a show on a Friday, right? Like it's
Saturdays.
Tough. Yeah.
Saturdays if we're lucky.
Yeah. So we've pretty much written off the summer. I think we're going to do 1 or 2 shows, just for one for the release and maybe one for fun. It sounds like what we're going to start steering towards before the year's end is we're going to let the album marinate for a few more months, but I think we want to do a couple more singles.
If you had any advice that you could give an aspiring musician that would help their career from the beginning, what do you think it would be?
Don't stop. You're going to hit a lot of pathways and blocks that are going to feel like you shouldn't be doing it, whether it's your parents saying, you know, you need to get a real job, or you release a song and it only gets 10 plays. Like, keep going. Keep going. It's like a faucet, a dirty faucet. You turn the faucet on when it hasn't been turned on for a while, a whole bunch of comes pouring out, it's all dirty, it's all gross. You keep it running for a couple minutes, that's running clear as day every time. So just don't give up, keep going. That's all I can say.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for doing this.
Thank you, Rob.
It's been a great conversation and an amazing
pleasure.
thing. So
I enjoyed it, man.
Awesome.
Awesome.
We'll catch you guys next time.